The pioneering spirit is nothing new to agriculture, as innovation has made farming in America the most productive and technologically advanced in the world. Yet, tomorrow will present a new set of challenges that'll require new ideas, inventions, and innovations. That is what Farm Next is all about, showing you the future of farming. From autonomous robots to cutting-edge digital tools to better ways to fertilize your crops and increase soil health, this program will give you a glimpse of the exciting future agriculture has in store. Stay tuned to see what's next on Farm Next. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Farm Next. I'm Max Armstrong, and I'm thrilled to be a part of giving you a front row seat into what's next in the world of agriculture. Before we get to what's next, let's talk about a transformational technology that's here right now, microbes that can replace nitrogen fertilizer. Not that many years ago, the co-founders of Pivot Bio dreamed of creating a better way to provide nitrogen to crops. And like the inventors you'll hear from today, they dedicated time, effort, and capital to turn their dream into a reality. Today, Pivot Bio's products deliver nitrogen to corn, wheat, and sorghum and have been used by farmers across the country. Pivot Bio knows just how challenging it is to transform an idea into a product and to get it into the hands of farmers. So Pivot Bio, together with Farm Progress, scoured the country and found 10 entrepreneurs with the potential to be that next big idea for the future of agriculture. Each of these companies is vying for a chance to showcase their idea at this year's Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa. In each episode, you'll see these cutting-edge innovations in action. You'll meet the brilliant minds behind each idea, and you'll learn more as each participant presents their ideas to leaders in investing, agribusiness, and farming. And you, our audience, can vote live during the show whether you think each idea has what it takes to appear at the Farm Progress Show. You'll do that by going to pivotbio.com/vote. There you can enter to win a VIP package to the Farm Progress Show. In today's episode, we take a look at Corral Technologies, a startup based in Nebraska that has developed a wireless fencing system for cattle. This innovative technology allows producers and ranchers to manage their herd right from the palm of their hands. Stay tuned to learn about Corral Technologies. But first, here's a short video from Pivot Bio. Take a look.
We're going around talking to all the farmers in Iowa because we're trying to build the ultimate farm truck.
Yeah, in your cab.
There are over 2 million farmers in the United States. One of them is about to win some cash for their local FFA chapter.
I don't know that the public knows what they want out of sustainability.
If they're asking us to grow cover crops and to plant non-GMO, our expenses are going to go up. Yields are going to go down. At that point, we're not sustainable.
All right, so when you think of Wisconsin, what do you think of, aside for beer and cheese and people wearing cheese while drinking beer?
You have to have nitrogen.
It's really a microcosm of one of the biggest questions that we face. Can we feed the world and save the world?
Visit pivotbio.com/originals to see these shows and more.
So what we're doing, guys, we're going around talking to all the farmers in Iowa because we're trying to build the ultimate farm truck. What is the best truck?
Let's see what you guys are rolling with right now.
Lights are critical.
Flatbed.
Toolboxes.
Workbench height.
These guys need a truck that's ready to work, has power, can get dirty.
Follow us as we design, build, and give away the ultimate farm truck.
On the farm, there's no such thing as a day without work. For some jobs, there's only the hard way, the way it's always been done. But when it comes to nitrogen, now there's a better way with Pivot Bio. Farmers deserve a nitrogen that works as hard as they do, one that stays with the crop until the job is done. It's time to turn to a better nitrogen.
Welcome back to Farm Next, the show that gives you a front row seat into what's next in the world of agriculture. In today's episode, we take a look at Corral Technologies, a startup based in Nebraska that has developed a wireless fencing system for cattle. But before we meet CEO and founder Jack Keating, here's a short video about the company from the field. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Jack Keating. I'm the CEO and founder of Corral Technologies. The inspiration for Corral Technologies came from my dad and I going out to fix fence one day, and he said, why don't we have invisible fences for dogs but for cows? Within the Corral Technologies system, we have a collar and also the software. The collar goes onto the cow, and that collar provides stimulation to keep that cow inside of the boundary and move them from pasture to pasture and get the data for that cow's health. Now the software is where you actually are a majority of the time, viewing where that cow is, drawing your fences, sending move functions, and being able to really manage your operation. What we're enabling is the easy access to rotational grazing for ranchers. Instead of having to go and put up miles of fence, you're now able to draw these cross fences at the touch of a button. From continuous grazing, where your utilization rate was around 35%, we're now able to bump that up to 65% or above, allowing these cows to actually eat more of the grass that's in the pasture. The biggest benefit we provide for ranchers is actually increasing the number of cows they carry per acre. And then there's plenty of other benefits, from gains for your calves to time savings and material savings on the fencing side, to where you're not spending multiple days at a time every year fixing fence and putting in fence. You can now draw that fence at ease and have the peace of mind those cows are going to stay. There's a wide variety of ranchers out there that would benefit from the system, from large-scale producers with over 2,000 head all the way down to smaller-scale ranchers with only 50 cows. From Canada to Ireland to Mexico, we've talked to over 200 producers. They want to use the system, they want to be able to draw these fences, and it's just wonderful to be able to see that. The mission and the value of Corral is to increase ranchers' profits with less work. Being able to take the weight off of their shoulders a little bit, say, okay, now you can draw this fence at the touch of a button instead of spending a day building it and thousands of dollars building it, is really where I view the potential. I'm extremely passionate about agriculture because my family's in it. My family is raising cows and want to help my family live a better life, and hopefully my dad, who just turned 60 last year, he's able to do it for a lot longer because that's his dream. So if I can help him do that for as long as possible and help other ranchers across the world follow their dream, that's what we're trying to accomplish.
With us now to tell us more about the Corral Technologies story is Jack Keating, CEO of Corral Technologies. Jack, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Max. Happy to be here and happy to be a part of the Farm Next showcase.
I'm sure there were ranchers watching saying, yeah, I could see this in our operation. Give us a little bit of background on your life to this point. You grew up on a ranch.
I did. I grew up ranching in northern Nebraska. Growing up, we had about 300 head of Red Angus, so I grew up fixing fence, digging fence posts, getting kicked, all of those items, and I finally figured out, all right, I'm tired of fixing fence, there's got to be a better way to do this. And that's exactly what we're doing with Corral.
I was snooping around on your LinkedIn profile. I can't recall any other time that I've seen down in that background section 14-year ranch hand.
That is a fact, yes. I have plenty of experience being a ranch hand on my family's ranch, on our neighbor's ranch where they had over 2,000 head, and then several other smaller operations as well.
You paid your dues.
I did. I got a lot of hands-on experience with the issue that we are solving right now.
Well, you were also an engineer by training. You were at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, correct?
Yep, I did mechanical engineering, which really gave me that technical background necessary to build the system, design a robust device that can withstand the cows in their everyday environments, and make sure that we have that reliability in our system.
So what was that moment like, that light bulb moment that went on? Were you having to hop out and grab a gate or something like that? And you said, wait a minute, this has got to stop. What was the thing that really brought this product on?
Yeah, initially, my dad and I were going out to fix fence one morning, and he said, why aren't there invisible fences for dogs but for cows? And that's really what kicked it off. But at that time, I had no technical experience, and I didn't want to dig miles of underground lines. And so I kind of put it off on the back burner until I got that technical experience in college and finally figured out we can draw fences instead of burying lines.
And let the record show you're a recent graduate.
Yep, graduated in 21 Then took it full time after that, and I've been working hard and diligently ever since.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to get an immediate return on that higher education investment?
Exactly. Yeah, we're using it. I'm using it as much as I can right now, developing the system and building out our company.
I can imagine you've received ample feedback from others who've said, oh yeah, but you need to do this, or maybe you should try this. What have you heard?
There have been a variety of different, feedback areas, from goat collars are necessary to, all right, we need satellite communication, or we need calving alerts, all these different aspects of it. And really what I have to come back to is the core value of the system, which is really the confinement and the moving of the cows.
But there could be other stages later on added, perhaps?
100%. Yep, we're working on them. We're working on them right now, increasing our reliability, and then gonna go ahead and build out those other systems.
You know, there are a lot of things that turn on inventors. There are things that motivate them. Some of them is a pure profit motivation, and others, they say, I want to make a difference. At the end of the day, there's something pretty cool about that. What's driving you here?
I think it's the more of the different side. My family ranches, so this system directly affects what I'm doing at home, what my family's doing, what my neighbors are doing and friends are doing. And so if I can increase their way of life and help them become more profitable and hopefully save hours and days of labor, that really is what drives me to make the system.
Have you thought about where this business could go someday? Is that on your mind?
Constantly. I'm always ideating and trying to figure out where do we go next with the system and the company as a whole. And I really want to get the system out globally, because this isn't an issue that ranchers in Nebraska are facing or ranchers in the U.S. are facing. This is a global issue. We got ranchers calling from Canada, Mexico, Ireland, Brazil. And so we need to get these systems out there and available to ranchers worldwide.
Isn't it exciting to hear from other parts of the globe that, hey, you might have something here?
It is, and it's really interesting hearing the different management systems, because in Nebraska, like in the winter we put them on corn stalks, and in Georgia they're putting them on cotton fields. So hearing the different ways people are managing their cattle is always an interesting thing.
Jack, thanks for filling us in on some of the details right here. Now that we've learned how Corral Technologies got to where they are today, our panel will scope out just where Jack could be headed next when we return after these brief messages.
Unscripted, unfiltered, unapologetic.
It's a suburban mom, and having to satisfy that suburban mom on social media.
Diner stops and real talk. The voice of farmers, not politicians or promise makers. Just honest conversation about agriculture's biggest issues. Nothing is off limits.
Well, have you ever seen a GMO peanut?
How about organic tuna?
Organic tuna. That's a good one.
This is The Farmer's Table, an original series from Pivot Bio.
The United States of America can be very different from one state to another, but one thing every state has in common is agriculture. And the farms across America are like the patchwork of a quilt that binds our nation together, and each state is represented in their own unique way.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlie Behrens, and welcome to Agricultural States of America. We're going to test your knowledge about the agriculture of different states and hopefully give you a bit more appreciation for the great things farmers are producing across the country. Today we're starting off with my home state and America's dairyland, Wisconsin. All right, so when you think of Wisconsin, what do you think of? Aside from beer and cheese and people wearing cheese while drinking beer. How about cranberries? Now, believe it or not, Wisconsin is the top producer of cranberries in the United States. In fact, the cranberry is native to Wisconsin, and it's the state's leading crop in terms of acreage and value. All right, you can always go to pivotbio.com/originals and explore more agriculture from your favorite states and test your knowledge to win great prizes and more.
Hey, I I got an announcement for all of America's farmers. You want to win the ultimate farm truck? You got to sign up right here. And if you do, it could be you that wins it.
Welcome back to Farm Next. Now, we're on to the final portion of today's program, our panel examination. Jack, you'll enjoy this, I assure you. Joining me here on the panel is Karsten Temme, CEO and co-founder of Pivot Bio. Roger Underwood, an entrepreneur and investor in the agriculture industry. And finally, Lisa Peterson, who is a grower from Osage, Iowa. Well, first of all, Karsten, what excites you about this part of the program?
Well, this is great. It's a chance to connect as two entrepreneurs and talk about how it's all about ideas turning into solutions that really impact the growers and ranchers out there.
Roger, you've been around some of these folks bringing new products forward, and you have a lot of questions for them from your background as one who has invested in the past.
Yeah, I started a company, Max, back in 1982 with my best friend from high school. We grew it up to a couple $100 million in sales and sold it 10 years ago. And now I just love to meet these new game changers in agriculture, and then I invest in quite a few of them.
Lisa, I often point out that you're a past president of the National FFA organization. That charted your course toward leadership, but you wound up back at the farm in another leadership role, I guess.
You're correct. I'm a part of our family farming operation, as well as doing some off-farm consulting in the agriculture space.
Well, Karsten, let's start with you with your questions about Corral Technologies.
Well, let's just start with how it works. Tell us a lot more about the details.
Yeah, so there's two parts within our system. There's the software that the rancher uses a majority of the time, and then there's a collar that actually goes on top of the cow, and they wear that throughout the year and throughout their grazing system. So that collar communicates with the software, gets all the coordinates for the actual pastures that you draw on the software, where you can track those cows, see where they've been, move them from a pasture to pasture and confine them and draw those pastures. And that collar receives those coordinates, it then actually confines those cows and gives them a slight simulation if they try to go out of the pastures. We also have solar panels on top of the system, giving it that extra extended battery life that we need for these rugged environments.
How long do you expect that battery to last?
Our goal is to get 2 years out of the system, and that's basically the longest timeline we have. But from our calculations, it should be 2 years or more.
So to coin a new phrase, the old way of doing this is a dumb fence. It's just wire and posts, okay? So that's the dumb model. You've got the smart fence. So what's the return on investment moving from a dumb fence to a smart fence?
So it varies per operation and really across regions, because there's different grass types, there's different carrying capacities that you have to take into account. But really what we're allowing is ranchers to easily implement rotational grazing. And so for rotational grazing, there have been returns from Wisconsin and Virginia that showcased over $200 in ROI, and that's if you manually put in the fences and moved those cows. So now, if you take out the fencing, you take out the labor, we're gonna hopefully see even a larger ROI for the system. And really, you're looking at fencing materials cost right now, costs $11,000 to put in a new half mile. I think it's $159 per quarter mile in maintenance per year, which quarter mile only encloses about 3 acres, which isn't very much in the big scheme of things.
So as a farmer, I've got to go there then. What's the cost to me as a rancher, as a farmer, to put the system in place?
So for what we're doing right now is we're looking for cow-calf producers, and most of those will be on an annual fee basis. So they'll get the software, they'll get the device, and then they'll pay $120 per device per year.
How long does it take the cattle to learn the perimeter fence and deal with collar?
Yeah, we're still working on getting a really stressed timeline on that and an exact timeline on it. We've seen cows from a day, they've been able to learn up to like 2 weeks basically with the system. So 2 weeks is what we're shooting for within that timeline. Within there, those cows should learn the system, and you should be able to start drawing these pastures and confining them to those pastures.
Do you envision some kind of an alert in case there's a mortality out there? Would that trigger a signal perhaps in the software?
Yes, it would. Yeah, we would have an alert in there, say, hey, cow 324 hasn't moved for the last 8 hours. You probably need to go check on it and make sure everything is okay. So we will have alerts for dead cows, sick cows in the future, calving in the future, and heat detection in the future. The other data we're collecting is activity data for those cows, location data, and some other data that we can analyze on like water tank location, salt and mineral location, so we can see how those cows are distributing across the pasture. So those ranchers can actually make decisions on, do I need to move my salt and mineral? Is this cow a more efficient grazer than this other cow? And should I get rid of that cow? And ranchers are going to own that data, and we're going to basically use some of that data to improve our system overall.
One thing that occurs to me after so many springs of wildfires, all of the fence rebuilding that has had to take place after those fires, and sometimes you'll have people donating fence and bringing in posts, but it's still very labor intensive. Seems like you might have an answer here.
Yeah, exactly. With a lot of these ranches right now that have encountered these fires, it's hard to find materials, so they're fixing up their perimeter fences and then they're waiting on the actual interior fences or those cross fences that break up their pastures. So with the system now, if you have that perimeter fence maintained and built up after a fire, you can now go in and actually draw those interior fences rather than spending the funds on building those fences.
So I know that the traditional rancher, whether it be Nebraska, Kansas, Montana, loves his horses. He loves to go out and work his cattle with his horses. Along comes the four-wheeler and the side-by-side. Well, they probably still use them, but they love their horses. So now you come along with this smart fence. How's that adoption rate going to be picked up, and how fast do you think you can hang on until you build a business model that's sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, rancher adoption has been pretty exciting to see, from ranchers reaching out organically through the website or through cold calls, and ranchers saying, hey, I want to use the system. When can I get it? It's been exciting to see that ranchers want to use the system. And I think from my perspective, instead of spending time fixing fence, you can now go and ride your horses through your cows, check on them, and actually keep a better eye on them. Rather than spending time fixing fence or moving the cows, you can actually have a better understanding of those cows and what they're doing throughout the day.
So is the collar able to tell the cow to move to that new perimeter fence, or do you need to move the herd into that area first and then perimeter fence them?
It's able to actually move those cows from one fence to another fence. So within the system, you'll have all your pastures drawn out. You can click, okay, these cows are currently in pasture 1. We want to move them to pasture 2. Press OK, and that move will begin. So it's a real slow move. We're not pushing these cows at max speed across the pasture. So it's a pretty slow move, low stress for those cows to move from one pasture to another.
So businesses typically go through some kind of a hockey stick of growth. You got the early stage, and then when you're way successful, you're up here. So tell me, what stage are you at this point?
Right now, we are at the pilot stage. So we have 4 pilot ranches across the state of Nebraska that are utilizing our system. And those ranchers are testing the confinement, the movement, and really giving us a lot of feedback on how the system is operating. Then we'll be launching this fall or this winter in November, December time, to where we can actually get units deployed across the U.S. and really start growing our system and getting even more feedback from producers.
Besides the time that I save in building fence and moving cattle, what other benefits would your system have to me as a farmer or rancher?
Yeah, the really core value of the system is actually increasing the number of cows a rancher can carry per acre, right? We're allowing these ranchers to easily integrate rotational grazing into their operation without having to build that fence or move the cows. So the big value of the system is increasing the number of cows per acre. We're looking at increased weaning weights for your calves, increased pasture health, because these cows are actually, instead of grazing around the water tank and overgrazing one area, they're getting that manure distribution across the whole pasture, eating it evenly, letting those pastures rest. So you're getting healthier pastures over time, able to increase rainfall absorption and retention, and overall help that operation go from what it is today to the next generation of healthy pasture, healthy cattle for the rancher.
Didn't you just describe sustainability and ranching and grazing of cattle, and how are you going to play that up in your promotional materials?
Yeah, we want to help these ranchers be better caretakers of the land. And I view ranchers right now as very good caretakers of the land, but integrating in these systems, now they'll be able to do an even better job, right? They'll be able to let those pastures rest throughout the year, only grazing it a few days, then the rest of the year it's just growing up, wildlife can flourish there. And along with the system, you can actually draw exclusion zones. So if you had a pond, a fishing pond, or a wetlands that you wanted to protect, you can actually draw a box around it so that those cows don't enter into that area.
What other types of options do ranchers have? What's competition like?
Yeah, so the first big one is obviously the traditional fencing materials, but then there's also several other companies working on a system. So there's only one other one located in the US, and the big differentiator between our company and theirs is we don't have a base station on your operation. So there's actually no infrastructure that you need to deal with or we need to deal with. And so it allows them to put the collars on and actually get going with it and start using it right away instead of having to mess with the base station, worry about it breaking down, having to get it serviced. Now they can put the collars on and go.
So you're a generation apart from me. All that technology sounds so easy for you to just kind of plug and play. But how about for a guy like me? Can I go in and just buy that product and figure it out?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's very intuitive. I mean, just like a collar that you would have for your dog, you put it over your cow's head while you're running them through a chute, and you tap it, assign an ID, and now you can actually go and draw these pastures and confine cows to those pastures. So it's very simple, and that's our goal with the system, is to make it as easy to use as possible, only give data that is necessary, and make sure that ranchers can actually make decisions on that data.
Jack, your enthusiasm is contagious. Thank you for sharing the story with us. We wish you well as you go forward.
Well, thank you very much. It was exciting to be here, and it was great to meet all of you and hear your questions.
And panelists, you did have great questions about an exciting product. We want to thank you folks out there for watching and remind you in the audience, we'd love to know what you think of Corral Technologies. So here's how you do it. You go to pivotbio.com/vote. There you can also enter to win a VIP package to the Farm Progress Show coming up in Boone, Iowa. pivotbio.com/vote. You can also view other episodes of this show at pivotbio.com/vote. And you can visit us at the Farm Next Innovation Tent. That'll be at the Farm Progress Show at Boone, Iowa. That'll be August 30th, 31st, and September 1st. That's all the time we have today. Join us next time on Farm Next, the show that gives you a front row seat into what's next in the world of agriculture. Farm Next has been brought to you by Pivot Bio. Pivot Bio, the nitrogen that stays put, whether or not. Farm Next is produced by 22 Creative Group in association with REL Productions and has been a presentation of Farm Progress Broadcast. If you'd like more information about Farm Next, please visit pivotbio.com/farmnext.